The bitter chill of a New York winter pressed against the windows of their small apartment, seeping into the cracks, wrapping itself around the lonely corners, like a silent reminder of the life they had lost. Inside, Jane sat curled up on the worn-out couch, hugging her knees to her chest, staring at the empty chair where her mother used to sit, humming lullabies that filled their home with warmth. But now, the air was heavy, thick with sorrow, and the only sound was the ticking of the clock that marked the painful passage of time. She was just 10 when her mother, Eleanor, was admitted to the hospital, her once lively body reduced to a frail, pale shell. The doctors spoke in hushed voices, their words sharp and cruel, cutting through Jane's young heart. Cancer, they said, a disease that required money they didn't have. Her father, Samuel Carter, never rested. He worked tirelessly, day and night, hands cracked and bleeding from the hard labor at the docks. He carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, determined to save his wife, determined to shield his daughter from the bitter reality of their life. But deep down, Jane saw the truth in his weary eyes, the silent plea, the desperation, the fear. Then came the day when everything changed, the day her mother took her last breath. Jane stood by the hospital bed, gripping her mother's cold fingers, willing her to stay, begging her not to leave. The room smelled of antiseptic and fading hope. Her father was there too, his strong hands trembling as he wiped his tears away, trying to be strong for his daughter. But when Eleanor's chest rose one last time and fell still, Samuel collapsed, silent sobs racking his body as he held Jane close. That was the day he shattered. Life after Eleanor's death was unbearable. The apartment, once filled with laughter and dreams, turned into a prison of despair. Bills piled up, food became scarce, and the landlord's knocks turned into threats. Samuel worked harder, pushing himself beyond human limits, but it was never enough. Jane would wake up at night to find him hunched over the kitchen table, a stack of unpaid bills before him, his head buried in his hands. She never dared to speak in those moments. She just watched, feeling helpless, feeling abandoned by a world that had stolen everything from them. Then, one cold evening, Jane found the dress. She had been searching through an old suitcase, looking for a scarf to keep warm. Instead, she found something unexpected, something beautiful. It was a dress unlike anything she had ever seen, shimmering like molten gold. The fabric so soft, it felt like water against her fingertips. The scent of expensive perfume lingered on it, a scent foreign to their humble home. Her heart pounded. Slipping the dress over her frail frame, she twirled in front of the cracked mirror, watching the fabric dance around her. For a fleeting moment, she was no longer a poor girl trapped in misery. She was a princess, living in a world of magic. Then the door swung open. Her father stood frozen, his face draining of color. His eyes, those deep hazel eyes that always held love for her, darkened with something else, something raw and terrifying. "Take it off," he commanded, his voice barely above a whisper, yet carrying a force that sent shivers down her spine. Jane flinched. She had never seen him like this before. Tears welled in her eyes as she fumbled with the dress, but before she could say a word, he lunged forward, yanking the fabric from her body as if it burned him. His breath was ragged, his grip white-knuckled as he held the dress away from her, as if it was some cursed object. "Where did you find this?" he demanded, his voice trembling. She pointed to the suitcase, her lips quivering with unspoken fear. Samuel clenched his jaw, his whole body shaking. He turned away, gripping the dress tightly as if his entire life depended on it. Then, without another word, he stormed out of the apartment. Jane waited. Minutes turned into hours, hours into days. The apartment grew colder, the silence heavier. She curled up on the couch, staring at the door, willing it to open. But it never did. Days turned into weeks, then months. The authorities came, asking questions, but no one knew where Samuel Carter had disappeared. Jane was placed in foster care, bouncing between homes, carrying the wounds of abandonment. The years hardened her, taught her never to rely on anyone but herself. But no matter how much time passed, one question haunted her. Why did he leave? 15 years later, Jane stood before an ornate mirror, the reflection of a woman she barely recognized staring back at her. The white wedding gown clung to her frame, elegant and pure, a symbol of new beginnings. But despite the beauty of the moment, her heart was heavy. Today, she was marrying the man she loved, William Turner. Yet, one person was missing, one absence that gnawed at her soul. Her father. As she stepped outside into the crisp autumn air, a gentle breeze kissed her cheeks. Guests filled the Grand Hotel's entrance, their laughter and chatter forming a melody of joy. But then, amidst the sea of well-dressed figures, a disturbance caught her eye. An old man, disheveled and frail, stood at the bottom of the grand staircase. His clothes were tattered, his beard unkempt, but his eyes, those eyes were unmistakable. "Jane," his voice cracked, barely a whisper over the bustling crowd. "Please, just one hug." She recoiled instinctively. There was something unsettling about him, something broken and desperate. Security moved in, grabbing the man by the arms. "Let him go," she commanded, her voice shaking. Before they released him, he pulled something from his pocket, a folded, yellowed piece of paper, and handed it to her. With trembling fingers, she unfolded it. "My dearest Jane, I am so sorry. That dress you wore all those years ago was never meant to be in our home. It was a gift worth $10,000 for my boss's wife. When he found out it was missing, I was accused of theft. I tried to explain, but no one believed me. I was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Every night, I prayed you were safe, that you had food to eat, that one day you would forgive me. I never abandoned you, Jane. Life abandoned me. But I have never stopped loving you. If you can find it in your heart, please, let me see you one last time. With all my love, your father, Samuel Carter." Tears blurred her vision. Her knees buckled, and she gasped, horror and grief colliding inside her. The man, her father, stood before her, eyes filled with unshed tears, hands trembling. The years had been cruel to him. He had suffered, alone, for a crime he never intended to commit, all because he wanted to protect her. "Dad," she whispered, her voice cracking. A sob broke from his lips as he nodded. Without hesitation, she ran to him, wrapping her arms around his frail body, feeling his warmth, his love still there, still unwavering. "Walk me down the aisle," she choked out, her voice breaking. A stunned hush fell over the crowd. Her father hesitated, looking down at his ragged clothes. "I can't." "Yes, you can," she interrupted, holding his hand tightly. "You're my father. You always have been." With tears streaming down both their faces, Samuel Carter, the man who had lost everything for the love of his daughter, walked her down the aisle. The guests whispered, the world watched, but all Jane saw was her father, the man who had sacrificed everything, and who, despite it all, had never stopped loving her. That day, she didn't just marry the love of her life. She reclaimed the love she thought she had lost forever.